that ball would have been a slightly bit lower.
It's going against us this time, you know.
Threaded through towards Chevy.
They were not betrayed by bad luck. They were not betrayed by a better team on the day. According to Gary Neville, they broke something far older and far harder to repair. They broke the trust that Sir Alex Ferguson built Manchester United on. For 26 years, Ferguson ran the most successful dressing room in English football. He protected young players from the press. He defended his squad in public, even when they made mistakes. He gave long careers to footballers who proved day after day that they worked for the badge. But the moment a player damaged the culture inside that dressing room, the door could close fast. No status was high enough to stop it. No talent was rare enough to save it. This is the story of how that trust worked, who earned it, who lost it, and why Ferguson built an empire not on star power alone but on standards. Start with the basics. Ferguson's trust was never really about emotion. It was practical. He trusted players who worked hard every single day without needing to be asked twice. He trusted players who stayed loyal when things got difficult. He trusted players who accepted the role they were given. Most of all, he trusted players who protected the team. They did not criticize teammates in public. They did not make the dressing room weaker by putting themselves first. The clearest proof of this system is the class of '92. Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes, David Beckham, Nicky Butt, Gary Neville, and Phil Neville. 6 academy graduates who became the cultural backbone of the club. Giggs was shielded from the media in his early years because Ferguson did not trust the tabloid press around a young player. Scholes barely needed managing at all. He was disciplined and quiet, and let his football speak. Beckham worked relentlessly, even as fame began to pull at him, but accepted hard, unglamorous roles without complaint. Gary Neville made up for his limits with sheer effort and leadership. Phil Neville put the team above his own ambition every time. Together, they policed the dressing room from the inside, so Ferguson rarely had to, but trust at United was never permanent. It had to be earned again and again, and nothing showed that more clearly than what happened to Roy Keane. In November 2005, after a heavy defeat to Middlesbrough, Keane sat down for an interview with the club's own television channel. It was never broadcast. In it, the United captain tore into his teammates. He criticized Rio Ferdinand. He criticized Kieran Richardson, Liam Miller, John O'Shea, Darren Fletcher, and Alan Smith. He questioned their standards, their mistakes, and their commitment to the shirt. Ferguson made the entire squad sit down and watch it. Gary Neville later called that meeting horrific, not because the criticism was wrong, but because of what it meant. Keane had broken the one rule that mattered more than any other at Old Trafford. He had attacked his own teammates in public, even if only inside the club's own walls. For Ferguson, that was unforgivable. Within weeks, Keane was released. It did not matter that Keane was the captain. It did not matter that he was one of the greatest midfielders of his generation. Ferguson chose the dressing room over the individual every single time. That was the lesson. Trust was not about talent. It was about whether you protected the group or put it at risk. Years after Ferguson retired, Gary Neville pointed to a new generation of players and argued they had failed to learn that lesson. After a humbling 4-0 defeat to Everton in April 2019, Neville named 6 United players who, in his view, had stopped meeting the basic standards the club was built on. The first was Alexis Sanchez. Neville said he looked completely unrecognizable from the player who once terrorized defenses. The hunger seemed to have disappeared. Ferguson never trusted reputation alone. He trusted daily effort, and Sanchez, by this account, no longer showed it. Next was Marcus Rashford, an academy product, much like the class of '92. But Neville criticized his tiredness, his nagging injuries, and his lack of defensive work. Ferguson protected young, homegrown talent, but he still demanded that even his favorites ran and defended for the team. Then Romelu Lukaku. Neville's criticism was that Lukaku faded in the biggest matches, struggling when the pressure and the physical battle were at their highest. Ferguson wanted strikers who relished those moments, not players who shrank from them. A forward who disappears when it matters most was never going to earn deep trust. Paul Pogba's case ran deeper than one bad match. Years earlier, his own teammate Darren Fletcher revealed that the coaching staff never fully believed in Pogba's defensive discipline. In December 2011, with United short of fit midfielders, Ferguson chose defenders Raphael and Park Ji-sung over the talented teenager waiting on the bench. Pogba took the message. He was not trusted in a critical moment. and he left when his contract ended. Years later, back at the club, Neville saw the same passive, uninspired pattern returning. Pogba had the talent few others possessed. But under Ferguson's standards, talent was never enough on its own. Discipline came first. Anthony Martial was next. Neville described him as looking indifferent, low on effort, as if the results simply did not matter to him. Ferguson could forgive a mistake. He found it far harder to forgive a player who looked like he was not trying. Finally, David De Gea. Neville suggested the goalkeeper looked distracted, likely because of long-running contract talks pulling at his focus. Ferguson demanded total concentration from every position, but especially from his goalkeeper. A moment of lost focus between the posts could cost a match. Outside noise, in Ferguson's world, was never allowed to creep onto the pitch. Ferguson's caution went deeper than the dressing room itself. In 2006, after a serious injury, Gary Neville offered to give up the captain's armband, feeling he could no longer do the job properly. Ferguson refused outright. He told Neville in blunt terms that he and Giggs would simply share the role, because handing it to a single superstar would only create resentment among the others. Give it to Ronaldo, he reasoned, and Rooney would react badly. Give it to Vidic, and Ferdinand would feel overlooked. It was a small decision on paper, but it revealed something large. Ferguson did not fully trust even his biggest stars to carry a symbol of authority without disturbing the balance he had spent years building. That same instinct for control showed itself in smaller moments too. Neville once challenged a squad-wide fine in front of the other players. Ferguson pulled him aside afterwards and made it clear that questioning him publicly, even as captain, would never happen again. Authority, like trust, only worked if it stayed unquestioned in front of the group. None of this means Ferguson simply discarded difficult players. The opposite is often true. He protected the people he managed, even as he held them to brutal standards. Young players were shielded from heavy media exposure for years. When a star like Cristiano Ronaldo could not be fully trusted defensively in Europe, Ferguson did not drop him. He rebuilt the system around him, using Wayne Rooney and Park Ji-sung to cover the gaps, so the team stayed protected without losing its best attacking weapon. And when young players were eventually released, Ferguson did not simply send them away. He worked to find them trials and contracts elsewhere, protecting their futures even after their time at United had ended. Ferguson rarely asked his players for an opinion on transfer targets. He preferred to make those calls alone, trusting his own judgment above all else. But there was at least one notable exception. After United faced Fulham forward Louis Saha in the FA Cup, Ferguson turned to his own defenders and asked whether they rated him. They said yes, without hesitation. Saha signed soon after. It was a rare moment where Ferguson trusted the judgment of his most reliable players over his own instincts. Proof that trust, even at the top of the club, occasionally flowed both ways. That is the part of the story easy to miss. Ferguson's trust was never only about punishment. It was a two-way arrangement. He demanded total commitment, tactical discipline, and loyalty to the group. In return, he gave protection, opportunity, and 26 years of stability that few clubs in the world have ever matched. The cost of losing that culture became clear years later. Neville, working with fellow former player Jamie Carragher, reviewed dozens of United's major signings since Ferguson's retirement. Only two of them, Bruno Fernandes and Zlatan Ibrahimovic, were judged genuine successes. A small handful were rated average. The rest were judged outright failures. Without Ferguson's framework of standards and earned trust, even gifted, expensive players struggled to find their level. Ferguson's greatness was never just about signing the most gifted players available. It was about knowing exactly who could be trusted with responsibility, who needed protecting from the spotlight, and who, no matter how talented, eventually had to go. Long after the trophies are forgotten, that is the real lesson of the Ferguson years. At Manchester United, talent opened the door. Trust was the only thing that kept it open.